Welcome back to the Golf Smarter podcast, Terry.
It's good to be back, Fred.
It is great to have you again because I know that you have some exciting news, and I just want to welcome everybody who's going to be joining us here live at Blab. This is the Golf Smarter podcast. My name is Fred Green, and our guest today is going to be Terry Kaler, CEO of, I was about to say Eidolon, of the Ben Hogan Golf Company. But Terry and I have known each other through a number of variations of the company. You were just a wedge guy before, but now you have become a full-blown golf club guy all the way across.
Yeah, we're everything now. We just got back from the PGA show and introduced our second new set of irons and a line of very exciting hybrids, and things are very exciting around the Ben Hogan Company now.
Well, for those that are not familiar, but you're such a regular on the Golf Smarter podcast, I can't imagine they are. But let's get a little background of how you got to Ben Hogan Golf through your early days, then Eidolon, then Score Golf, and now where you are today.
Well, my background in golf, I was just at the PGA show last week, and that was 37 times in a row. 37 years I've been going there.
Oh, my God.
Through a lot of iterations, but it's more exciting now than ever. This is so far beyond a dream come true, and I think everything I've done in golf for the last 37 years was really just to put us in position to put this team together and hopefully provide the kind of leadership that they want to really bring this fabulous brand back to golf in the right way.
It is so important to you on so many levels to be associated with this brand.
It really is. I mean, my affection for Ben Hogan goes back to my childhood. My father actually played a round of golf with Mr. Hogan before World War II. And my father and my uncle and Ben Hogan and Jug McSpadden played a little exhibition match in Houston. I grew up with power golf and 5 lessons and a lot of things that I learned much later on that Dad would say that came right out of Mr. Hogan. There's no substitute for hard work. There's nothing wrong with your game. Another 5,000 balls won't fix. The secret's in the dirt. And I just was, Mr. Hogan was my singular sports hero. I didn't collect baseball cards or football cards. It was all about Ben Hogan and trying to emulate what he did, which was a pretty high bar to try to live up to. But it was just real exciting to have that influence in my life, even though I never met him as a child.
Unbelievable story. I love that story, and I've heard it a number of times, and I still enjoy it. Let's talk about how it started out with Eidolon Golf. Was that your first club manufacturing company?
Actually, it wasn't. 20 years ago, when I left the Ben Hogan Company, when they were in Richmond, Virginia, I started a company called Reed Lockhart, and our passion was about clubs for shot makers. It was kind of the Ben Hogan values, and in a Texas-based company when Ben Hogan had moved off to Virginia and Mr. Hogan had been kind of put out to pasture, so to speak. And then after that company, I did some consulting and had this idea for a line of wedges and kind of a next generation of what we did at Reed Lockhart. And I created a little company called Eidolon. We sold wedges online. It was the second iteration of our famed V-Sole. That company evolved to become Score Golf when the USGA changed the rules on grooves, and I got further outside the box with what I thought wedges could be, and actually was a lot of influenced by a club from my collection that was a 1967-8 vintage Ben Hogan Special PW, and you never saw Hogan have a club that was marked anything other than Equalizer in the wedge. But I watched how that club performed. And I said, this is really something special. I obviously couldn't make, my line of wedges look like Hogan's. We weren't connected with the company. And, but the Score product gained quite a following. It really changed the way wedges were designed and engineered to be more forgiving, more accurate, just a smarter way to approach the short end of your set with the same care you give a driver selection or an iron selection. And then about 2 years ago, I saw an opportunity to maybe bring Ben Hogan back. I approached Perry Ellis Company, who had bought the brand, and was doing apparel, and showed them the team we had together and the values we had about equipment. And we created a new company called the Ben Hogan Golf Equipment Company, and rolled all of our efforts into that and kind of put Score out to pasture to make room for doing something really big beyond just wedges, but obviously to become a full-line golf company in time.
How's business?
So it's been quite a trip.
Yeah. So how's business been?
We came out of the PGA show, and this was our second show. We've been shipping product only about 10, 11 months now.
Right.
And we started with a set of Players irons, a pure forged blade, which is what Mr. Hogan would have wanted us to start with, and our line of wedges that we call the TK wedges. And our R&D guys have been busy. We introduced another set of irons at the show called Ptx that's been getting a lot of press, and a new line of hybrids that really raises the bar in that category. And I think that it's safe to say we were one of, if not the big story out of the golf show about how big Ben Hogan really is back in the golf business.
Awesome. Love hearing that. Love hearing that. Let's, if you don't mind, what I would like to do is spend a couple minutes talking about, because we've just had a couple episodes talking about the PGA show. I'd like to get your view of what you saw at the PGA show, other than Ben Hogan Golf, because we'll spend the rest of the time talking about that. But let's talk about what you saw at the PGA show that you found of interest, what the energy level and the attitude was at the show. From your obviously from your perspective.
Well, my world for those 3 days in the hall revolved around that 1,500 square feet that we owned on the floor. I didn't get anywhere, Fred. I didn't get outside there. We were completely covered up. The PGA show, for your listeners, is a huge extravaganza. It starts with a demo day, world's biggest demo day on Tuesday. It's at Orange County National. If you want to Google map and look at their big circular driving range, it's about 600 yards across.
Wow.
It's just a massive practice facility, totally chock full. We were at a location right inside the gate. We had 10 hitting stations. We were jam full with people standing in line the entire day. We never had an opportunity for people to just walk up and hit. They had to wait. It was exciting. So I never got off of that little piece of real estate all day Tuesday. We go into the PGA show on Wednesday, and literally my path was from the convention center door to our booth, and a few times a day to go back to take a break. But I never got out to see really anything at the show. We were just covered up, and the energy and excitement around our booth was extremely high. And we had so many people tell us we had more energy in our booth and more people and more crowds than anybody in the show. So I have to take their word for it because I didn't get out.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. Even if they're lying, that's great to be told.
Yeah.
Did you get a sense on whether or not the people that were coming to take some swings in your hitting bay, were they teaching professionals? Were they retail vendors? Or was it the press? Who was it that was coming out and just falling in love with your product line?
It was everybody that touched it. I mean, the show is a big media event. I was covered up with media interviews, probably 60% of my time.
Wow.
In the booth, and that demo day was talking to media and the big forums and the big bloggers and just everybody that had a microphone and a tape recorder or iPhone or a sketch pad, from the Orlando Sentinel to Sports Illustrated Golf Digest. I mean, everybody. So it's a big story. I mean, the Ben Hogan Company coming back to golf is a big story. But beyond that, the technology we introduced in irons and hybrids in both categories, we're showing some people things that have never been shown before by any company. And it's very exciting to tackle the problems golfers are having with some of the new technologies and resolving those problems in the way we have. So the overwhelming, some of the comments from people hitting the clubs were a little on the racier side, but basically people were blown away when they hit either of these golf clubs, because we're doing some things very special here that are outside the box that the other guys are in.
Well, you're a big fan of being out of the box. You have been out of the box from the start. You keep looking that way, and you ignore the box completely in some ways. So when you were just focused on wedges, which are not anymore, you were doing things that just hadn't been done before.
Well, and we still look at that. I mean, I have no interest in doing what other people are doing. And I think we have a lot of unserved and underserved golfers out there. We started that with the wedge category and by really taking a fresh look. I mean, you look at the wedges that are out there, even the new stuff for 2016 from the other companies, they're still very close to what we played in the 50s and 60s, all the way just along the sole. Everybody's trying to make a groove story, and in our research and experience, there really isn't a groove story out there from what we see. But what makes a golf club work is how you do the weighting. And we totally changed and created a progressive weighting scheme, in this Hogan line of wedges, the TK wedges. And, as I said, I have the freedom now to go back and look at what Mr. Hogan was onto 50 years ago. He was onto something and about the weighting of a wedge to make it just extremely forgiving. And people don't think about forgiving in wedges, but you need forgiveness. I mean, you're a mid-handicap player, but whether you're a tour player or a 12 handicap or 16, when you hit that wedge shot a little high on the face, we all know what happens. It doesn't go anywhere. Well, right. If we can create a driver that lets you get away with a toe miss or a high face miss, why can't we make a wedge that lets you get away with that? And that was the way we approached it. I need to be forgiving on that wedge because nobody makes perfect swing, but I also need that wedge to be pinpoint deadly accurate. I need that wedge to be adaptable to any kind of turf condition. Have always been a big outspoken critic of the idea of fitting bounce because I don't know what the next lie is going to be like. And I just don't understand how you could do it. We created wedges in every single loft from 44 to 63 degrees. We can perfectly gap a golfer to blend back to their irons and their 9-iron, their P club. We can put the right shaft in it to optimize their feel and performance. And I just think people treat wedges as this off-the-rack commodity grade thing, and they're the most important clubs in your bag. If you're going to put that kind of attention to your driver, your irons, you need to give that kind of attention to your wedges, and we have. So that was a big part of what we did, and then we carried those philosophies into the rest of the iron set, that each iron in your set needs to be a little different than the other one. I mean, a 24-degree club, a 33-degree club, a 40-degree club, these are different animals. They perform differently. I just don't believe you can, and our research testing shows, you can't put the same kind of weighting on a 25-degree club as you can on a 45-degree club. And yet every iron in the market, they all look alike. And so you get problems, and I'll slow down a bit, but I mean, I can get off on a roll on this because golfers tell us they have problems.
Yeah, you don't have to slow down, buddy. You're pretty amped up. I love it. A little 5-hour energy. Oh, yeah, I know that's water. Sure. That you're drinking. It is. Slow down, Terry.
But, what we've heard, Fred, from people about iron play, they can't keep their short irons out of the clouds. They can't get good distance control in their high loft golf clubs. And the modern driver technologies, the companies are bragging they're bringing driver technology into the irons, and what they're getting is long irons you can't hold a green with. Sure, it goes far, but people have a distance limitation that's physical, and what they want out of their long clubs is a higher ball flight, but they want it with spin. And in hybrids and long irons both, we're watching these companies take spin out of these long clubs. Well, we need that long club. We need that 180 shot or that 188 shot or that 195 or 225, whatever it is. But when it lands, you need it to stay there. You're hitting it at a green, and you don't need it to roll out like a driver. So we've tackled these issues, and we found that in a set of irons, for example, the only way to give you a penetrating ball flight to short irons with good distance control and a high ball flight with the steeper landing angle and spin in your long irons is to make those clubs differently. That 25-degree club and that 45-degree club in our set are made very differently. They cosmetically look like they belong together, but there's a lot of difference under the hood.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, personally, when you first came out with those Eidolon clubs, I liked those. And then Score Golf came out, and I loved those. I remember the first day I played with them, I chipped in off the green and went in the hole from about 20 yards off the green. I'm like, okay, I'm in love with this club already. And it just got better from that point on. And then when I started playing the TK15 irons that you came out with last year, I had to change everything in the way I hit a golf ball because I always had the cavity back clubs from a different manufacturer. But now I'm playing a blade, and I just had to learn how to hit the ball differently. And now for the first time, I'm hitting the ball with a draw and getting more distance than I ever got. And I'm not swinging harder. I know that. So your technology here, I'm really excited to hear what's coming next. So tell us about the Hogan Fit. Your clubs, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. Let's talk about this part. Your clubs are not available in local pro shops or retail outlets, are they?
No, we are expanding our distribution. I mean, in time, the Ben Hogan line will be available in wherever fine golf equipment is sold. We like to talk about where the game is learned, practiced, and played. But, we're building a retail network. We're building a green grass following with golf professionals. Our goal is to make this golf club available to people where they would like to buy it. If they want to buy direct from Ben Hogan, we can deal with that. We've got PGA professionals on the phone that can talk to people, help them through the process. You know, a lot of people, they know what their iron specs are. They know I'm a ½ inch long, 1 degree up, and I like this particular shaft. We have some great golf professionals on our team here on the phones that can help guide people to that. We have an online engagement called Hogan Fit that takes you through an analysis of your golf bag. You know, people, it's really funny because we mark all of our irons with the loft of the golf club. We don't use arbitrary 6 and 7 and 9 because those numbers don't mean anything anymore because they're all over the lot. But it's funny because people know the lofts of their wedges. They've been buying wedges by loft for 30 years now. They know the loft of their driver. They know the loft of the fairway wood and the hybrids they're carrying. And they don't know the loft of their 5-iron. They don't know the loft of their 8-iron. Well, if you're going to, this is where you really need gapping precision. And you need to understand with these modern sets of irons, you only have 2.5 and 3 degrees between clubs at the long end of the set. You have 5 degrees between clubs at the short end of the set. It doesn't make any sense. You need more precision as you get closer. So it's a total rebuild of how irons are made.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
And sold.
And sold. And sold. So, and the Golf Smarter community has been really excited and supportive of what you've been able to do and the products you've been out. I know that I get a lot of feedback from my listeners who talk about the success they've had with the clubs that you've put on the market.
Well, we get great feedback from your listeners, your followers. We get great feedback from everybody. What you were talking about the blade iron a while ago, and and we throw this word blade game improvement, but the way I look at it is every golf club is supposed to be a game improvement purchase. That's why we buy new golf clubs. We are hopeful they're going to make us better. But we have so many people that don't think they can play, quote, a blade golf club that are playing our golf club and just amazed like you were. I think a golf club, you have to have mass behind the ball, and you have to have the weight distributed to put the center of gravity of that golf club where it's going to deliver the proper ball flight. So, in our new iron and the Fort Worth iron, we are big believers in a solid forged construction, particularly in the higher lofts, because that's where distance control comes from. That's where flight control comes from. We have over 70,000 golfer interviews, and overwhelmingly golfers tell us they can't flight the ball down with their short irons. Well, then why are we making short irons that throw the ball higher and higher and higher? Why are we putting 6-iron design in a 40 and 45 degree 9-iron and P club when we can design that club to give you these tour-like penetrating ball flights, which is where consistent distance control comes from? That's
one of the things I love about it. I'm sorry to interrupt. That's one of the things that I love about it is that you're not out there going, look, you're going to have to change how you hit the ball because now you're using these more sophisticated, irons. This is going to work for you because we're going to tailor it to your swing.
One of the things we've done, that's exactly right. One of the things we do with both of our sets of irons, the PTX and the Fort Worth, we make every loft from 20 to 47 degrees. So we make 28 golf clubs. So within that 28 golf clubs, you're going to have a set of 7 that are going to take you from 20 or 23 degrees to 44 or 47 degrees. We can give you your customized launch angle. So if you're a low ball hitter, I'm going to loft your whole set up 1 or 2 degrees to get your ball flight up to optimize your performance. Contrarily, if you're one of these players and you just have a high ball flight, we can flight your whole set down 1 or 2 or 3 degrees. There's so much happening in shafts. They talk about flighted shafts. You heard this, right? Mm-hmm. Why is the shaft company trying to make up for the shortcoming of the iron head? Why don't we just redesign the iron head to do that? So it's really a flighted set of golf clubs. Duh, right? So and within each of those sets of irons, there are really 4 complete loft sequences to fit your launch profile. And we all talk about launch monitors, and golfers have all been on them, but you can't do anything about it in most companies. So we can actually use a launch monitor to tell us what loft sequence is going to optimize your performance from long iron to short iron.
Go ahead.
Well, Mr. Hogan was all about precision. I mean, nobody ever hit greens like he did. Nobody ever hit fairways like that. I was reading the other day in his last PGA event when he was 59 years old, he missed 1 fairway and 1 green in 72 holes. Nobody plays golf like that. No. But he did it with such perfection and precision. In the 1960 U.S. Open that Arnold Palmer won by famously driving the green on the first hole at Cherry Hills with a Ben Hogan driver, mind you. It's in the picture. You can see it. Mr. Hogan hit 34 straight greens on a final day. 34 straight greens in a U.S. Open.
That's
Guys are
amazing.
lucky to hit 10 and 11 greens in the U.S. Open as firm and fast as they are. But he had command of the golf ball because precision and perfection were what he was always after. And we take that as a guide for what we want out of our golf clubs. And they have this man's name on them. It's pretty important to do it the way he would have done it.
And he was doing it with yesterday's technology. I mean, the technology has changed so much that allows you to customize the set for each golfer now. That why aren't we doing better? Because you're not practicing. Because
golf is a hard game. And I've read research, Fred, that the fact that golf is hard is one of the big appeals of golf. I mean, people like this game because it is hard. It's not for everybody. I'm a golfer. I'm one of a select group of 10 or 12 million Americans that I'm willing to tackle this hard game and get enjoyment out of it. But, there's great joy in striking a golf ball properly, and particularly with a good, solid forged iron. We've lost the feel of persimmon wood. So many golfers don't know what a really well-struck drive feels like off of persimmon wood. But what we are driven by is that distance control. Because that's the key to iron play, the key to wedge play is about, it's not about hitting it far. It's about hitting it that far or that far or that far. And I talk about that there's one club in your bag supposed to go far. That's your driver. But once you get to hit, every shot begins with a yardage. You think about it. After the drive, it's not how far do you hit a 7-iron. It's, okay, I'm 145. I got a little wind quartering in from the left. The pin's in the back right. There's a bunker to carry. You process all of these variables before you pull a club from your bag. But it starts with the yardage. That's the first thing people do. They take their laser, they take their GPS, they look at the marker in the fairway and go, how far am I? And every golf shot starts with the yardage. So, let's give you the precision to know you have a couple of different ways you can get 148 or 163 or 109 out of that shot.
One of my all-time favorite lines that came from a conversation that we had on the podcast, and we even titled the show that, and I've repeated it so many times, is it's not how far, it's how close.
Exactly. I mean, this game, and we were having a conversation the other day, and I said, so the one shot that every golfer can hit that would impress Jordan Spieth, any tour player, anywhere, Ben Hogan, would be an approach shot close to the flag. Most of us have no chance of hitting a drive that would impress Rory McIlroy, Bud or Dustin Johnson. But you know what? If we're playing a scramble and we're all hitting from his drive, whoever hits it closest, that's the shot we're going to play. And if you were playing golf in a scramble with a tour player, he's not going to always be the guy that hits it closest. And, the conversation after a round of golf is about, how good you were hitting your irons, how good you were putting today, how good your short game was today. You're driving the ball well, your buddies. But golf is about a game about hitting better golf shots than you used to and hitting them more often than you used to. And that theory, that theme of better golf shots more often is what really drives us. And how can we help golfers do that? And we look at the deficiencies of the modern equipment and we think we can do a better job with some of these opportunities out there, more accurate short irons, more forgiving wedges, hybrids that let you land the ball softly and hold a green, let you dial in the kind of shot pattern you want. So that's what we're all about, is performance.
And congratulations on your success with that. We are here live on Blab, and there is people who have joined us to watch this live. The video will be available on our YouTube channel at Golf Smarter TV, but everything at golfsmarter.com. If you are here with us and you have a question that you'd like to ask Terry, there's two options. One, you can click on the call-in button and join us in the conversation. You can ask Terry yourself because you may have a follow-up question. Or if you just want to submit a question for me to read to Terry, type in /Q and then your question, and then we'll put it up on the screen for both. Terry, let's explain Hogan Fit for just a moment here.
So what Hogan Fit begins with is what we call a bag mapping analysis. And we believe knowledge is power. And most golfers, as I mentioned, they don't know the loss of their irons. So Hogan Fit starts with a process of, we ask you a series of questions to learn what's in your bag, make and model of your irons, what loft driver, fairway woods, hybrids, what loft wedges you're carrying. And then we ask you a few distance questions, and we output a gapping analysis. We show you a map of your golf bag to show you have 4 degrees between these two clubs, 6 degrees between this one, and 7 degrees between here. And you get down the long end of the set, and you only have 2.5 to 3 degrees between your long irons. it's very eye-opening for golfers, and it starts to show them, well, no wonder I have distance control between my pitch and my 52-degree gap wedge. I didn't know my pitch was 45 degrees. I thought it was 48. Well, it's not unless you're playing a 15-year-old set of golf clubs. So it all starts with analysis. And then we offer the Hogan Fit taker the opportunity to see the Hogan solutions. And then that gives us permission, if you will, to show you what we do about this and how we would rearrange your golf bag to give you the kind of gapping and precision from your highest lofted fairway wood all the way down to your highest lofted wedge. And let's bring an order to that. Let's bring a geometry to that lets you be more accurate at close range, lets you have reasonable gaps between your long irons. You know, a lot of golfers out there, and they hit their 4-iron and their 5-iron almost the same distance. Just one goes lower than the other. Well, that's overkill. You know, they hit their 3 hybrid and their 4-iron the same distance. So they hit their 2 hybrid and their 5 wood the same distance. And even in tour players' bags, we see this compression of loss at the long end of the set causing them problems. It's not something only we amateur golfers deal with. It's a big problem because of the way manufacturers have continued to push this 6-iron further and further down in the set. When I was playing high school, college golf, my 4-iron in my bag was a 28-degree golf club. And in today's world, a 28-degree golf club is a weak 6-iron. It's crazy. To me, it's crazy.
Yeah, I can understand that. And to anybody who is about considering for this year to get themselves go through the Hogan Fit and get some new clubs, and don't get too nervous about that. Not saying 4-iron, 5, 6, 7 on your clubs, because they give you a card. I love this part. They supply you with a little card that has the degree of each club, and you get to write in how far you hit each one. So you can always refer to it on your bag. So when you know what shot you have to make, you can just look at this chart. I've gotten to the point now where I still have to go, okay, that's a 5, a 6, 7, and I need this one. But I got it to work, and now I'm very comfortable with it. Okay, drum roll, please. I am so excited to hear about the new clubs. Let's hear about, first, let's hear about your new irons.
So the new iron, we call the Ptx, and the Ptx, and I'll hold this up where your viewers can see this, but the Ptx Iron is a very clean, simple design on the outside. There's a lot of technology under the hood. What we heard from golfers over the Fort Worth Iron, those that felt like they couldn't play it, can you give me a little bigger profile? Can you give me a little more offset? Can you give me a little thicker top line? So we tackled the Ptx. We said, how do we give that golfer that without sacrificing the shot-making qualities? And we looked at, as I mentioned earlier, we looked at the thin faces and the hollow constructions that are in most of our irons today. And what actually happens is, in relation to the golf club, the center of gravity of that club is lower in the high loft golf club than it is in the low loft golf club. Well, that doesn't make any sense, but it's because they made the back of that club look just alike. And so as the loft of the club goes back, it's putting more weight below the equator of the golf ball, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what we did with the Ptx Iron in the short irons, the 47 degree all the way down to 32 degrees. So those 4 clubs in your set have a titanium core forged inside a carbon steel head that lets us maintain thickness of the face. It lets us give you a little wider sole. It lets us give you a little more offset. It lets us give you a fuller face profile. But by using a titanium core, which weighs half of what steel, we can make that club bigger without sacrificing the thickness and the solid feel of a pure forging. And the titanium core also allows us to manage from the 32 degree club to the 36 degree club to the 40 degree, the 44 to the 48. We're allowed to keep the center of gravity of the golf club exactly in the same spot in relation to the equator of the golf ball.
Awesome.
So you get penetrating trajectories in your pitch and your 9 and your 8. You start getting a little ball flight help in your 8, your 7, your 6. And then when you go into the long iron, we take the titanium core out, and now you have a hollow construction with a tungsten weight in the toe to allow us to keep the center of gravity out in the center of the face. Good players like to CG a little more toward the heel. That's where the Fort Worth Iron had. The more game improvement club, we want to keep that out in the center of the face. So it allows us to give you these high, soft landing, high spinning long irons So you can actually hold a green with a long iron shot. I mean, it is a real thrill to be out there at, whatever your long iron range is, 180, 230, whatever long iron range is. It is a real thrill to be able to hit a high ball that lands soft with spin and stays on the green instead of that iron shot that comes in hot, skips into the back bunker, the back rough. And golfers are plagued by this. We hear it from the retailers. We hear it from golf pros. We hear it from golfers. How do I get my long irons to hold the greens? Well, play a different one would be a good way to start. So the Ptx Iron, we like to say it's got a lot of technology under the hood. One thing we're guided by here in iron design is Mr. Hogan said a golf club should be like a fine piece of jewelry. So there's no plastic in here. There's no polymers. There's no things to make you think you felt a good shot. But what we wanted to build is a golf club that would forgive your misses, but it would give you the feedback so that you knew how you missed it. I want to get away with the miss, but I don't want to mask the field because I can't learn from that. So the PTX was just a huge hit at the show. I think we're going to be in an allocation situation very quickly because it's going to take us a while to ramp up. When you have a brand new model, we'll start building these around April 1. And we'll have to grow into this. Because we do things at Hogan very differently. We don't have production lines and mass production, and every set of golf clubs is built, preferably exactly for the golfer that's going to play it. We really don't build stock golf clubs here. Something we believe very strongly about. And
which is one of the things that I love about what you're doing. But are the Fort Worth 15s your original set of irons that you put out? I'm hearing myself. Is it? Are those for the lower handicap golfers? And if somebody with a mid to upper handicap, the Fort Worth 15 really would be a difficult club for them to have a lot of success with. Does the PTX answer that question? Are they more desirable for a mid to upper handicap player?
Well, I don't like to use handicap as to determine the kind of iron you ought to play.
Then scoring somebody who rarely breaks 90.
Well, I've got friends that are single-digit handicaps that are not very good ball strikers, and they don't hit the ball in the center of the face very much. They don't like to work the golf ball. The PTX is a good club for them. I've got we've got in the 10 months we've been shipping Fort Worth, I can't tell you how many 10, 12, 14 handicappers we have out there raving about them. There's some videos on YouTube of 12 and 14 handicappers talking about, I've never played a golf club that let me do this, because if you like to hit golf shots and you like to flight the ball down, you sometimes play in the wind, sometimes you don't. And it's about the quality of feedback you want from your golf club. One of the funny things about golf clubs is this little area of the face between the ends of the grooves, it's 2 inches wide. It really doesn't matter what kind of golf club you buy. The smallest club I've measured on the market is 1.98 inches, and the biggest club I've ever seen is 2.040. So it's 60 thousandths of an inch between the biggest and smallest. What people get freaked out about is the compactness of the golf club. But the striking surface is 2 inches wide. It's half again the size of a golf ball. And if you don't hit it inside the grooves, hey, I'm a golf club guy. I really can't help you. If you hit it out here, I'm sorry, nobody is going to give a golf club that's going to let you get away with it. But what we focus on, if you're making contact around the center half to 2/3 of the face, we can give you a golf club that's going to perform for you. And rather than say, and let's take the number one player in the world plays a technology club. Number one player in the world doesn't play a solid forged blade. Is that because he's not good enough? I don't think so. It's because what he prefers. But we have 14 handicappers playing a club that he won't play. So, it's all about personal preference. I prefer the Fort Worth blade because I grew up working the golf ball. I like to work it low. I like to turn it over. I like to hit cuts and draws. It fits my eye. I'm a purist. I'm not near as good as I used to be, but I like the way the ball comes off that kind of golf club. We've got players here at our company that have been playing the Fort Worth Iron for 10 months. They're a hell of a lot better players than me, PGA professionals. They're going to go to the PTX because they like the ball flight of it. I've always been a high ball hitter. I don't need help there. So what we like to say is we make 2 irons. You tell us which one you like better. And, we may guide you a little bit, but, we've got, like I say, we've got 15, 16 handicappers playing the Fort Worth. And we'll have scratch players and tour players playing PTX. So I don't like to use handicap. I think that's that box that I don't like to be in.
Well, there's just a language that has been set, the tone that's been set. So they use the word wedge and they use the word cavity back and they use the words handicap that is kind of like we're all speaking the same language here. So the only reason I'm bringing that, I know how you have an affinity to stay away from that. You're allergic to words like that. But we got to be able to communicate so everyone understands what we're talking about. So for this purpose only. Fair?
Yeah, and I mean, again, the Golf Digest Hot List just came out. They categorize player blade or players irons, game improvement irons, super game improvement iron. I'm careful about that term game improvement because the way I see it, if you put your money down to buy a new golf club, whether it's a putter or a driver or a set of irons or whatever, you're really seeking game improvement with that purchase.
No matter what.
That's your goal.
Yeah.
Better. And I think a lot of players have gone down the game improvement path with thin faces and plastic and polymer behind them. And I think if they came back to a club like the Fort Worth or even the PTX, they would remember why they love golf. It's about the feel. Mr. Hogan had a great saying. We use it a lot around here. A well-hit golf shot is a feeling that goes up the shaft, through your hands, and right into your heart. Mm-hmm. I mean, there is just no substitute for the feeling of a well-struck golf shot. Yeah. And we keep that in mind on all the golf clubs we build.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Game improvement almost sounds as if it's a marketing term. It's somebody came up with that or someone's paid and it's like, oh yeah, that's what we need because that's what everybody wants. That's why they're spending, as you said, that's why they're spending the money on new clubs. I've gotten really comfortable with the Fort Worth 15s. I'm kind of afraid to try the PTX, but that's where I came from and that's what I was used to. So this has been a whole transition for me. But I want to now what I'm really most interested in, and thank you for explaining that. I want to know about the VKTR. The hybrids is a whole new category for you. My first question is, do you call it a VKTR or do you call it a Vector?
It's a Vector.
Okay, good.
We're just being very frugal with vowels. So
you have to buy a vowel, right?
Vector was an old trade name, and Ben Hogan had a Vector shaft back in the 80s, and they had a couple of different lines of irons called Vector, and we kind of reached back. We like to reach back. The PTX is a tribute to the iron called Power Thrust that really started the classic Hogan weighting. People can see a Hogan Apex blade from the 60s or 70s or 80s, 70s or 80s, 90s, and they know that's a Hogan. You can tell from across the room there was that classic Hogan shape in the back. And that kind of came out and began with the club called the Power Thrust back in the mid 60s, early 60s. The Power Thrust went through an iteration called the IPT, the Improved Power Thrust. That was really where that classic Hogan weighting scheme first really was revealed. And then there was a PT3, and then it went off into the bounce sole, and then the Apex name came out. But that weighting from the PT3 and the Improved Power Thrust, that weighting has been, resurgent, always kind of come back to that. That we use the PTX is the X generation of that weighting technology that Mr. Hogan pioneered. Still works very well. But in the Vector hybrid, we looked at the hybrid market, Fred, and we looked at what people are saying, and they're saying, we're bringing driver technology and ultra thin faces and a hot CT, and we're going to give you more distance. Well, they're saying more distance because they're measuring carry and roll. But a hybrid is an iron replacement. It's not a driver replacement. I don't want it rolling out there. I'm putting a hybrid in my bag to replace an iron that I'm not very consistent with. My best 4-iron shots go 188 with a nice high ball flight. It's only 1 out of 5 swings. I'm going to replace that with a hybrid because I want more consistency. But I need it to fly 188, and I need it to stop where it lands. I'm trying to replace this 188 club. I don't need to replace it with a 200 club. I need to replace it with a 188 club. I mean, Absolutely. It's an iron replacement. I'm trying to gap the long end of my set properly. So we started in the Vector hybrid. We started with more of an iron-like profile. So it's a little deeper in the face. It's very, much flatter across the bottom than a fairway would. This is designed to give you iron-like performance. It's also designed to give you good ball performance when you make impact across the bottom of the face. This is a low loft club. You're playing it off the turf. You're going to make contact low in the face quite often. And we wanted real high performance. But what we didn't want to do, what the other hybrid companies have done, is let spin come out of the hybrid. And we didn't want to lose your spin because that's what you need to hold the green. So this hybrid, and the good players complain about hybrids that they go left too hard on them. So good players are like, I can't play hybrids because they go right to left. And the good player knows how to draw the ball. He didn't want that to happen automatically. So what we did is created this hybrid with a very neutral right-left bias. So if you know how to hit cuts, you can hit cuts. If you know how to hit draws, you can hit draws. But we want to help that golfer. So what we also did is we put in the most dynamic, I'm going to move this up to the camera. We put in the most dynamic weighting of anything in the hybrid category. So you have a weight port in the heel. You have a weight port in the center back. You have a weight port in the toe. And you have a weight port in the sole.
Wow.
Nobody's ever done this. So what this allows us to do is you have an 18-gram weight and 3 2-gram weights. Where you put the 18-gram weight is going to change performance. So in its neutral position, this is a penetrating ball flight with high spin. If you want even a little more flight, you can move that weight to the center back position. I'm going to elevate your ball flight probably a half a degree with the same loft of golf club, and I'm going to add some RPMs of spin. If you want to promote a draw, you put the heavy weight in the back, and that's going to promote 4 to 7 yards of draw bias into this golf club. Conversely, if you'd like to favor a fade with this golf club, you play hard, fast green, you move the heavy weight to the toe, I'm going to promote a 4 to 7 yard fade bias. So if nobody's ever given this level of tunability of ball flight in a hybrid golf club. You see drivers with weights that you can move around, but never to this extent. I mean, this is in the far extreme perimeter of the golf club. So you have a club in the Vector hybrid that allows you to tune your ball flight. The other thing that we looked at the hybrid market, and they're making hybrids too long. So you're going to replace your 3 iron with the 3 hybrid that's a full inch or more longer than your 3 iron. Well, you're not going to get the same distance.
No.
So we build our hybrids a little shorter than everybody so you can get that gapping. And the other thing we do is we make, people make hybrids to replace the iron. So they make a hybrid in an 18, a 20, a 23, and a 26. We make a 17, an 18, a 19, a 20, a 21, a 22, all the way to 27. Mm-hmm. So whether you need 1 or 2 or 3 hybrids in the long end of your set, we're going to get you gapped perfectly at 4-degree gapping. You can go to 5-degree gapping if you're a slower swing speed and you need that. We can take that. What's the longest iron you want to carry? Maybe it's a 3, maybe it's a 6. And what's your fairway wood, your highest lofted fairway wood? If you like to carry a 5 wood, let's look at how much distance is between those 2 golf clubs, and let's dissect that equally, into 2 or 3 gaps. And the only way you can do that is to have every loft to choose from and to get those back down. Excuse me. You're going to be a lot more accurate with that shorter golf club. A lot of people don't realize this. You know what the average length driver on the tour is? It's just under 45 inches. The average length driver we're selling to amateurs is 46.
46,
If
yeah.
the tour player can't handle a 46-inch driver, what chance do we have? It's just more accurate. The shorter club's more accurate. You're better with your 8 iron than your 6 iron, mainly because it's an inch shorter. Doesn't have anything to do with loft.
I am blown away by the weighting distribution. So you're saying that each of those weights come out, and you can transfer the heavy weight that's now initially placed at the bottom. You can put it in any place and just replace the one that you've taken out, put it back. So you have your 4 weights there all the time. Right.
So you have in the club, we ship the club with the 18-gram weight in the center sole.
Mm-hmm.
And in the perimeter, and it's a gray color. In the perimeter are 3 blue colored weights. Let's see if I can get this up where you kind of see it. And each of these weighs 2 grams. So if you take the 2-gram weight and swap it with the 18-gram weight in the sole of the club, now I put the light weight in the sole and the heavy one back here. I'm going to have a gear effect that's going to launch the ball a little higher because now the weight has moved from here back to here. By the same token, if I move the heavy weight to the heel, I'm going to put a draw bias in the golf club. If I move the heavy weight to the toe, and I'm going to put the lightweight where I moved it from. That makes sense, right?
Sure.
But every club comes with a head cover and a wrench where you can play around with this thing. And that each golfer will experience a little different mechanics of the geometry of what happens. But from our testing, typically, if you hit a straight ball with the weight in the center and you move it to the heel, you're going to get a 4 to 5 yard draw. Mm-hmm. If you hit a straight ball, maybe a little cut, you move it to the heel, you're going to maybe get a little draw in the other direction. But it will move the ball 4 to 7 yards easily. So you can buy a draw, buy a fade, buy a higher ball flight. you can tune that golf club to tweak it to what you want it to do.
Would you feel the difference in your swing where the weight is?
Yeah, you will. A golfer that's tuned into his golf club will feel that and will react to that weight difference. So, a robot will get 4 to 7 yards draw or fade bias because it can't adjust to what it's feeling. We've seen golfers get as much as 8-9 yard bias, because they can feel it and adjust to it, or they get less because they feel and adjust to it. Mm-hmm. But it lets you build your hybrid, to what you want it to do. So, we've had, and we haven't started shipping this club yet, but in our prototype and our developing, we had people tell us, I'm going to put my 18-degree hybrid with the draw bias because I'm going to use that off the tee a lot. I want one club I can really turn over. But my 24-degree hybrid, I'm going to put a fade bias because I want it higher with a cut on it, hold greens better. So it's really cool to have this much flexibility in how you tweak that golf club.
Yeah. So I would suspect that you would get this club, you'd go out to the range and just hit a lot of balls just with that club with the different settings to see what you're most comfortable with.
Yeah, have fun with it. It's like,
sure.
You got a new toy with movable weights on it. Go play with it a little bit.
But is this something you would suggest that, during the round of making those changes, or once you get what you're most comfortable with, just stay there?
If you're playing around, by yourself and learning, it's fine. But the USGA rules do not allow you to adjust a golf club in the middle of a round. You can't adjust your adjustable driver. You can't move the weights on your driver if you're playing by the rules. If you're rolling the ball in the fairway and picking up your putts, and probably don't make a lot of difference. But the rules don't, even all these adjustable clubs, the rules of golf that made them possible to make did make it very clear you cannot adjust that golf club in the middle of a round of golf.
Right.
Not why your buddies are looking anyway.
I am so excited to get my hands on one of those or a couple of those hybrids, because I have 2 hybrids and they're different manufacturers, and the thing that's frustrating for me is they look so different that when I'm looking down, I'm not sure. It's like, am I going to hit this right? Plus, I love having a hybrid, especially because I'm not always in the fairway. When I'm in the rough, I love having a hybrid to just smoothly get me through it and make solid contact. I am really excited to see what this feels like. When do you feel these are going to be available on the market?
We're planning to begin production on these April 1. We're in production now. The other thing we did with the hybrid is gave it a very player-friendly look. I'm trying to get the camera on this to show you, but when you're looking down at this golf club, it's got a very slim profile.
Yeah, I like
it's got a high toe in it. And we actually built, again, we are really after precision. So there's not one shape to this hybrid. There's 11 lofts from 17 to 27 degrees. There's 5 completely different head designs across those 11 lofts. So
really?
As you get higher in loft, the hybrid gets a little more compact. It looks a little more and more like an iron as you get up into your iron replacement.
Interesting. But it's got a little stubby nose, it looks like. I don't know if the nose is the correct term.
What we did is we wanted to give you more of an iron profile. And what's really interesting about this golf club, people say it looks like an Adams. Well, our head of engineering spent 8 years at Adams working with tour players on the best hybrids in the market. At that time, Adams has essentially disappeared. But there's a lot of what he learned that's in this golf club. But what's really interesting is there's a club in Mr. Hogan's personal collection that dates back to the 60s. It's an all-metal club that if I showed it to you, you would say, wow, that's a hybrid. It's from the 1960s.
Wow.
Never went on the market, so he was working with, and it has almost this exact shape to it. It's really pretty interesting. He was onto this 50 years ago. Hybrids have only been around 15 years.
At least. Wow. Well, congratulations, buddy. I am so excited for you, and I'm going to be just anxious all spring waiting for this to hit the market so that I can get my hands on one and see what it feels like, because to me, the hybrid has become, there's a couple irons that I feel like, if I just had a hybrid here instead, I'd feel more confident in what I'm about to hit. And I have a feeling that that's going to just solve that problem. Really excited for you. Congratulations.
I got another surprise for you that we also introduced at the show. Is the only thing that we've heard about the Fort Worth iron is in those lower lofts. I'm a little intimidated by that 22 degree or that 25 degree or even 27 degree.
Right.
So we also introduced what we call Fort Worth High, which is a hollow option iron from 31 degrees down to 20. So your lowest 1, 2, or 3 irons in a Fort Worth set can now be a hollow golf club. Shares the technology out of the Ptx, If you'd rather look at an iron, but you want a little higher ball flight with steeper landing angle, the Fort Worth High compared to the same loft number in the Fort Worth Iron has got a wider sole, little bigger profile, little deeper face, much, much more forgiving. It's a hollow forged construction. So that's another option where, people don't want to go all the way to a hybrid. They still want iron-like performance, but they want some more forgiveness. They don't want to give up that forged iron performance in their 33, their 38, their 40, 45 degree golf club. So you can augment those and complement those with Fort Worth High in your lowest 1, 2, or 3 golf clubs.
Okay, now you're really tormenting me.
Yeah, it's really something special. We've had a lot of people say, I don't like a hybrid because it's not as much a shot maker club as an iron is. Now they can have the best of both. They can have almost hybrid-like performance with an iron look.
I get to that situation where I'm at about the 165, 175 yard range, and I stare at that 27 degree going, yeah, is this the time? Yeah, but no, maybe I should just pull out my hybrid here and I'm more comfortable, And so, wow, now that you have introduced that, I'm not going to sleep well at night just thinking about these. It's going to be months. Okay, well, what am I going to do? Hey, man, congratulations. I am really excited for you. And to everybody in the Golf Smarter community, just make sure that if you go on to do Hogan Fit, or if you're going to make purchases, or even get on the phone with these people, which is a great thing to do because they're incredibly helpful, just make sure that they know that you heard about it on Golf Smarter. Terry's a fan. He's been part of it.
Yeah, we go way back on this, 8, 9, 10 years maybe. And
I just had my 10th anniversary, yeah.
Well, there you go. I was probably there on the wedding day then. So, we really appreciate, and your viewers and listeners appreciate what you do to help us spread the word. And, everything you want to see is on the website, benhogangolf.com. Hogan Fit is there. In the next few weeks, you're going to see some big changes in Hogan Fit. We'll be launching a new, what we're going to call the Online Performance Center. And I'll let the cat out of the bag a little bit. It's going to blow people away what you can do in here to look at how your wedges, your irons, your hybrids, your full set, your bag mapping all integrates together. It's going to be a beautiful experience for people and very enlightening.
I have no doubt. Well, thanks again, Terry. It was great to talk to you. Congratulations on all the success at the PGA Merchandise Show. And I know we're eagerly anticipating seeing these things in our hands to improve our game. Congratulations.
So thanks a lot, Fred. It's always a pleasure. Let me know when we want to have some more fun.
Will do. Anybody else have any questions out there? If you want to ask, we've had more people who joined us during the conversation. If not, Terry, that was awesome, dude. Thank you.
I appreciate it. And if you get questions after we go off there, send them to me and we'll get it.
And as always, our scheduled 30-minute conversation went over 50 minutes.
But that's probably better than we usually do then.
Yeah, exactly. Man, just putting a quarter in you, it's so much fun for me because I can just go, hi, Terry, and boom, 45 minutes later, we're done.
All right. Well, we enjoyed it, Fred. Let me know when you want to do it again.
All right, bud. Thank you so much. And Melinda and Tyler, thanks you guys for your help. I really appreciate it. And we will talk soon.
All right. Over and out.